We took time to find a little peace and serenity in the outback patio of Pizzeria La Rosa. This space is reminiscent of Italian family gatherings, and the best part is, if you didn't know it was on this little dead-end street, you'd almost never find it. Matt Gesu accompanied us for a talk about getting started in the pizza world and found East Coast roots in San Diego before he stumbled on this property with character. Let's go on the record.
My mom was somebody that just cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I don't really remember us going out to eat all that much. It was either going to your grandparents or, staying home. But one spot still there, Roma Pizza, Columbus Avenue, Tuckahoe. It's been there 90-something years in business, and was like, I think after church was, on a Saturday night when you're a kid, it was going to Roma for pizza. And that was it. That was like the only place I really remember going. And then once in a blue moon, we'd walk up to Piper's Kilt, which is still there, still amazing, and still a place I pop in every once in a while when I have the time. Really, those are the only two spots I remember going to, and they're still there, so it kind of
Describe Piper's Kilt, though, because, listeners all over, it's an experience.
Well, Piper's Kilt's changed so much over the years. I mean, they used to have 3 locations. They were in the Bronx, they were in Inwood and Manhattan. Eastchester one, I think, was the 3rd one. It's the only one that's still there. And just, I think back in the 80s, it was kind of like a tough bar. Like a, I guess what the place next door, Mickey Spillane's, like, kind of became, where, like, the young people went, got in fights, whatever, like, nonsense. But, yeah, Piper's Kilt was kind of just, like, the local yokel burger spot, loud music, sports, people yelling and screaming at the Yankee game. Cool spot. Just like dive bar with great burgers. That's it.
Those burgers, you don't add anything. You don't even have to add anything to them. Throw some caramelized onions on them. Maybe a slice of cheddar.
We used to, like, the Eastchester burger, you get the side of chili. It comes with, like, bacon. I don't even really eat bacon anymore, so it's kind of like, just plain cheeseburger there. They make a monster burger. Justin makes Smokehouse does a great burger, too. You want to talk burgers in Westchester? It's definitely comparable.
Sure. Same thing, just salt and pepper.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Use a good meat.
So how long were you deciding that you were going to just go into some form of culinary and kind of get a space open?
I started in this industry about 15 years ago when I was 25 and had no plan on doing it for more than like a year. And I figured I'd go back to corporate America. I was a marketing director, and, it just kind of, industry took me over, and that was it. I think probably after about the 2nd or 3rd year, I wrote my business plan. So, yeah, looking back now, probably 12 years ago, and it took me, almost 11 years before I finally opened my own spot. So
what was the
kind of
first
like
spot
a
you were working at?
long road. It wasn't overnight at all.
Where were you working when you wrote the business plan? What was the first restaurant you were working
I started in San Diego, so I was out there.
San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego. Fucking amazing place. I was a marketing director in the city. Company was based out in LA, and they were like, what would make you happy? We like you. You do a good job. And I was like, give me a transfer out west. I love it out there. Like, every trip I've gone on with the company has been amazing. And got the transfer to San Diego, got laid off the first week I was out there. Pepsi bought the company, and they were like, sorry guys, like, marketing department, first one to go. So they paid me out. It was like 3-4 month severance package. And, like, I spent a week or two, like, partying at the beach, typical, like, I'm 25, I'm in a new place. But yeah, I'm a hustler. So I got bored after like a week or so and was like, yeah, I'm just going to go work at a bar or whatever, anywhere. Just something I've never done. I'm going to do something. Money didn't matter. Like, I was getting paid for a while, so I'm like,
especially at 25, feels like a lot of money when you get that much.
Yeah, 3 months worth of paychecks for doing nothing. I was like, I'll just go do some bullshit.
25, here's 4 months salary. Would drop you off on the beach in Southern
insurance
California
for like 6 more months, whatever. Like, it was
sounds like
a
pretty nice
good
situation
deal.
for a little
It
bit.
was a good severance package. Pepsi did okay. They took care of us in that sense after buying the company. And yeah, I was like walking down the street and I heard like music blasting out of
You serve Pepsi or Coke products?
Coke. Strictly Coke. Yeah, fuck Pepsi, sorry. Seriously. But yeah, I was like walking down the street and I heard music blasting from this black building, just like blacked out completely. No windows. Door was locked, and I was like, what is this place? And I look up and it says Hoboken on it. Just Hoboken, that was it. And I was like, oh, weird. I was just, my office for the last 2 years for the job I had was in Newark. So I was like very familiar with that part of Jersey and whatever, like.
You had to investigate now.
Yeah. So I went home, I went back to my apartment, and I'm talking to like, my new roommate, and I'm like, yo, what's up with the place around the corner? And he's like, oh, they open at like 4 o'clock. They're open like 4 to 4 every day. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go back. I went back, and the kid making pizza had like a New Jersey like hardcore band's t-shirt on. And I was like, what's up? Like instantly connected to him.
Do we just become best friends?
Yeah, pretty much. Kevin Fleming, like, really taught me how to make pizzas 15 years ago. And it was
awesome.
like we bonded over music. And then I was like really bad at it. Like, they gave me a shot to make pizza, and like I was bad. Like, took a while. And it was one of those things I was like, I'm not giving up. Like, I want to be better than everybody here. And then it's kind of like that's followed me to every job I've had after. And I think all you guys can relate. Like when you're in your industry and your profession and you like think you've mastered it, it's like you go to a new spot and suddenly
like,
you're
I
at
don't
the
know
bottom of the totem pole. So it's like, who's the top guy here? How can I take him out? And that was kind of like I had to build up that confidence over being so bad for like a couple years. And these guys were like super patient and like, now I'm like the last one standing. Like a couple of them still do it, but
How do you
most of them
learn, though?
don't.
How do you learn how to make the pizza coming from nothing? Like, what's like the first steps? You don't just get to go do triple axles or something out the gate.
Even more than
you
that.
got to lead up to it.
How do you decide to learn pizza when you're out on the West Coast when the East Coast has such a reputation for pizza? Like, how do you know that
I didn't think it was going to be a career thing. I was just like, oh, I'm going to hang out with like some kids from the East Coast that live in Southern California. And it was like instant connection because, like let's be realistic. Like anywhere you go in the country is a little bit different. You go down south, you go, to the Pacific Northwest. Like every spot in the country has a different vibe. And I think it's kind of like Europe, which I've never been to. It's like Europe's huge. And there's all these, countries that in America would just be states and kind of everybody's like way different. So I kind of connected to these East Coast guys, and yeah, I didn't think it was going to be like a long-term thing. It just kind of like happened, and I was making really good money. Like we were a late night spot, so figure
Making really good money just making pizza?
yeah, like tips. Like I was walking out with like bartender tips every night because we were open 2 hours after the bars closed. We were on the busiest like Pacific Beach in San Diego is I think per capita like the biggest bar scene in the country. It's like back then in like mid 2000s it was like I think like 40 bars on like a 7-block strip, and after the bars let out it's like, yo, where are they gonna go? There's taco places or there's a couple pizza places, and we were like the only true like East Coast spot. Like the owner Tommy, great dude, was from Hoboken, and it was like lying out the door from midnight till 4 a.m. And it was like he ran the counter and was really good at getting tips. And obviously being the owner, he wasn't getting tips. At the end of the night, it was like straight to the pizza guy. It's like, yo, here you go. $2.30 in singles. And you're like, okay. Like,
This is fun.
that works.
Yeah.
When you do that every like 5-6 nights a week, and then you're getting a paycheck, and then it's like you're in Southern California where your day off is literally just sleeping on the beach.
What, like, I mean, it's crazy to me to even think that I never think about pizza and like just tips. Like, I would never think that on the bar side of things where I'm at. Like, I would never think that the pizza was something that would stack up like that. Like, hey, here's a tip. Like, what techniques was he using to extract money from people?
He had the concierge bell. So if somebody came up and tipped, like the cowbell, I guess you guys have behind the bar, like similar thing where it's like somebody gives you a good tip, you hit the thing.
Yeah.
So he had a little concierge bell right at the counter, right next to the register, and he'd like, hit it like crazy times. And he was kind of like a big, tough, intimidating dude. So it was kind of like once one person tipped and there's like 30 deep in a line, everybody's like, oh, I guess I have to tip. So it was like pure intimidation.
Also, I'm just sure a lot of those kids were like, just hit the bell. And he was like, put the tip in there.
Well, it was also like out there, everybody gets ranch with their pizza, and we used to like charge for it. So people would always put up a big deal about it. Like, what do you mean 50 cents for a ranch? We'd be like, yo, ranch doesn't go on pizza, but no, it's 50 cents. That's fine. Buy it. So people would be like, this is crazy. And then you would ring the bell and be like, not only did this guy think I'm going to give him ranch for free, he doesn't tip. We're working hard in here. And then like the next guy behind throws a 5 in, and it just kind of like snowball.
You know what I say about ranch?
Ranch is for rookies.
Just ranch in general. Like, I can't even have it on salad. It's just, I don't know. But on the West Coast, that's their like oil and vinegar.
So how long were you in here trying to, topple the top guy?
Ooh. There was like a lot of guys got poached and went other spots, and then some people just went and got real careers.
Pizza poachers?
Yeah. When
Are we in the Wild West? This is crazy out here.
Well, people do it all the time.
Yeah.
I used to like get like near fights with people over it who would like come in and like straight up try to steal my staff at other places I was running. I'd be
He's like the king of doing
it.
it.
Who are you guys? Like,
I do
put an
that all
ad
the
up
time.
on Craigslist. Like, see who you get.
The good people are working somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah,
the ads don't work for the good
that's
people.
the truth. But how do you get those people to want to work for you?
Right.
So it's kind of, you have to do that job where make your place as great as possible so that like they're looking like, oh, I was at the bar and I was bullshitting with this person and they're making this much money in tips tonight. I'm only making this much money.
And it looks like
maybe
they're having
let me
fun.
see if I can get a shift or two over there. And then it's also the vibe.
I usually like to go frequent other bars, and then
I always do.
if I'm there 3 times in a week, I'm probably trying to steal somebody.
Really?
That's how it goes.
Okay. Yeah. I don't.
He's going to trip you on the way back.
I guess because I've had it done to me like so many times, and I saw it happen with like other people before, like I said, before I was like a manager. But yeah, it's I don't blame you.
I don't steal from guys I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's
Well,
fair.
then you're back welcome here again.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't do that. Because then that's bad, like whatever.
Yeah.
But chain restaurants, those type of places, those are all fair game.
That's fair game. That's 100%. But
With a pizza place like that being where you just said there was pretty much 40 bars on this strip in San Diego, like I've started seeing it out here a lot in the bar areas where they start employing like bouncers at the door. Like, were you utilizing these things?
I was
or-
gonna say we had like a pretty like gnarly like East Coast crew, like bunch of goons.
Yeah,
so
well,
it was
we will
kind
jump
of,
over this pizza.
No,
part
so
time.
that like happened. That happened many a night. It's like, and that's the thing, like late nights. It's the last spot you can go to try to pick somebody up to go home. Mm-hmm. Like the bars are closed. You're hanging out on the streets trying to like keep the party going, figure out who's gonna come back and like who's gonna go where. Yeah, the last like chance. So of course that element brings out a lot of violence and
A lot of aggressive behavior.
there was a lot of wild shit that I saw there, but for the most part nothing crazy because we had a pretty solid crew in there of like intimidating guys and people knew not to really mess around, but also the police presence like out there is like heavy. And it's also, I think, a big problem too. It's a military town, and like I come from a military family, so I would never say anything bad about the military, but a lot of those guys like to fight. So there was a lot of fights.
When I guess you stayed for how long in the pizza place here?
All right, I stayed there about
in Hoboken.
Hoboken
ironically
was
enough.
about 3 years, and Tommy did probably the best thing anybody could have done for me, where he was like, all right, kid, you learned everything you could learn. You gotta go somewhere else. Yeah. Like, you got the business plan. Like, you can't open your place off, like, working just here. And so he's like, in the next month, I want you out. Straight up. I was like, okay. Got 2 jobs the next day. Like, was like, yo, where are the busiest spots? Like, what places do more volume? Went there and hired me on the spot in both spots. So I was doing part-time, and then they were both jealous that I was doing part-time at the other places because they like my work, and they were like kind of bidding to keep me. And I ended up taking like a general manager position at one spot that I stayed at, Pizzeria Luigi in San Diego. I stayed there for about 5 years. And they were like, when I started, they were coming off like a little bit of fame from Triple D, and they took that, opened another spot, opened another one. So they had like 3 locations right when I started. One of them was like a weird partnership that went wrong, but you know, it was just kind of like a monster still to this day, like does volume. And it's like, if you're somebody who cooks that's used to volume, it's like you're very valuable. And you know, it's hard to find. It's like very hard to find. It's very hard to find a pizza maker who's like, I can make 300 pies in a day like nothing. I don't need people standing over my shoulder. But there's too many guys that like can only make 100 pies a day that are going to complain every minute about it and be slow and fuck up like delivery times and pickup times and keeping customers happy. So it's like, it's, you know, like any service job, it's like, how do you do something as fast as possible, keep the quality up, and just let people know, like, regardless of how busy we are, you're going to get your food quick. So it's, you know, it's like, you got to become that guy. You got to be like, all right, I could just bust out all this work like nothing. And then just after years and years and years of doing that, it's like, okay, this is just it's a game.
Jay, you can get the similarities between that and like being behind the bar. It's kind of the same idea.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just still hung up on what you just said about him setting you free from the pizza space and saying that you've learned everything you can learn here. It's time to like move on.
Yeah,
and
That's such a nice thing
you
for a boss to
can't
say.
you can't have one person's recipes and then like alter that and go do your own thing. You got to work at like multiple spots and kind of like understand like, shit, maybe I should have been doing this the whole time. And then, oh, this, you know, like he had told me he worked at like, you know, a half dozen places before he decided to open his own. And that was the thing. He's like, this place is a combination of those 6 places. And it's like, that's how it's mine. Like, you want it to be yours, it can't be like a photographed copy. You know, that's important.
so many like guys on the bar side and in general in this business consistently stay, I think, in one place far too long, where they have learned everything, but they're just happy seeing the money come in nonstop, even though they have, you know, a dream of opening their own place.
Yeah.
And I just always say, too, that, like, it just seems that if you move around a little bit more and you get a little bit more experience through seeing how other people run their place, that probably increases the probability that you succeed when you open up your own place. So going in as the general manager at, what'd you say it was, Pizza Luigi? Like, you weren't doing that previously. I mean, you knew kind of what was going on as far as responsibilities of whoever the manager was in the other space. But, like, what kind of things did you learn from, you know, going into that carry over here today?
That was like a staffing nightmare where, like, Hoboken had a pretty solid crew and we didn't have turnover. Luigi's was, like, very big, like, artist spot. So if you were, like, a musician that did, you know, cross-country tours, or, you know, you were somebody that went on, like, month-long surf trips to Costa Rica, like, Luigi's had a job for you. And you could come back in a month and have your job. It's just, like, the turnover was high. And I think the hardest thing there, and, like, really what helped me here was, like, okay, know that nobody's going to stay forever. Like, put in place a couple key people where you can always keep the ship
20%.
aboard, afloat. And yeah, it's like that was also like 2 locations. So that was, how do you juggle 38 employees between 2 spots? And it's like something Justin's done like with his brand, and it's crazy. It's like it's every single day, regardless if you try to take off, your phone is going to ring. Somebody's dog got hit by a car. Somebody's aunt's got to drive their aunt to the dentist. It's always something. And ultimately, if you're a good GM, like, you'll take care of it. You'll figure it out. And the whole idea with that was like keep the owner away as much as possible, and as long as the money keeps going up, he's going to take care of you. And it's kind of what I'm trying to like train these guys to do, is like take it over where you don't have to call me. So like lately I've been trying to take Tuesdays off, and it's like figure it out. And like I popped in yesterday, and they're like, the POS isn't working, and they were like freaking out. And then Julio, who's been with me since the beginning, was like, well, I just watched the video on Google and I think I figured it out. I'm like, is it working now? He's like, yeah, it's working. I'm like, cool, you did it. Like,
Good work.
Yeah, like, but you did the right thing. You didn't know. You're not a tech guy. You Googled it and you got it working. And you didn't have to call me to tell me, like, freaking out, like, you got to come here. The POS isn't working. Like, it was like, that's kind of what I'm trying to build this place up to be. And it's hard because you have to like find people like myself that want it. Like, I didn't just work in pizzerias. Like I said, after the first year or so, it was kind of, this is what I want to do. I want to have my own spot. I want to sign my own checks, and I want to make decisions. And so everywhere I went, I ran with it like it was my own. And it's like I made a lot of friends, made a lot of enemies. I was pretty quick with like, yo, you're not working out, sorry. Like, fire 3 people in a day, no problem. Like, I got a stack of resumes because, again, going back to what we were talking about, we had developed this brand that it was like the cool brand where everybody just wanted to work there. Like, every like 22, 23-year-old kid that moved to the neighborhood was like, that place is always going off. Like, everybody looks like they're having a good time. I always see them together at the bars deep. Like, I want to be a part of that. And yeah, it's like, it's the, my partner Frank always talks about it. It's like the culture of the company, and the culture of this industry dragged me in. And then the culture of like the camaraderie, it's like, there's nothing like it. You guys can agree. Like, I worked in offices, and it's like, you go home and it's like, everybody goes their separate way. We're like, in this industry, we're all like, yo, let's crack a beer and bullshit about what we did right, what we did wrong today. And it's like, there's nothing like that.
I think a lot of times, too, you see offices come out, at least on the bar side. They have their one night out where they try to build a little bit of camaraderie and, a little bit of a team culture-ish mentality. And it's definitely different in the restaurant business as
You
far
have
as our
that
days
every
out.
day, all day long in the restaurant. Because you're standing next to somebody working next to them, like directly next to them for 10, 11, 12 hours a day sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard not to become close to somebody at that point.
Yeah.
But the difference is usually in an office, you're not executing a task for 12 hours in a row,
Right next to somebody.
like sweating it out in front of the end user, right? You're like on your desk working on something, it goes somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you come together at lunch or at the end of the day.
lunch, but what are you
Yeah.
working on? All right, see you later.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's like, like I got along with people I worked in the office with, but like we
It
weren't
was different.
kicking it on our days off.
Right.
Like, yo,
Yeah.
let's go to the beach, or
Right.
let's
Yeah,
go
you
to
had
this
your
show.
friends.
There's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
show
yeah,
next
whatever.
week on this night. You want to go? It's like, it just kind of wasn't like that. But like,
What happens when you're not in the trenches taking grenades?
Literally.
exactly. Yeah.
I think Matt has a valid point also, though, about how when you create the brand, the place where people want to be, the place where people want to be a part of, it's got to feel like it's so much easier to find employees, where we're looking at all these places struggling right now to just fill holes in their team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the maybe more, I guess, trendy spaces where the eye is on them, it's probably easier to see the resumes come in, no?
Well, I 100% agree with you. 100%. It's right now is the hardest time to find workers, period. There's a lot of people still afraid to go out and work. There's a lot of people, that are making more money to sit home. It's difficult, and we've been really fortunate. I think a big thing that I learned from Luigi's is like use your network. And like, so I'm constantly asking these guys, like, you know, do you know anybody like looking for work? Like, you want somebody to come and like mop the floors at the end of the night for some money? Like, anybody? You know, you got somebody that can bust tables, fill waters, like, and these guys are pretty good. Like, they're, you know, they're like a family, like our crew, and they're always like, oh yeah, I got this one or that one, or oh, so and so's coming home for college. Cool, put them on for the summer. Like,
Right.
you know,
Tomorrow.
we need the help in the summer, so it's like I'm looking forward. I have like 3 kids coming back from college who are like gonna hit me up, like, how many hours you got? And
We need to
Yeah.
talk to the colleges about ending their school year a little bit earlier, though.
Yeah, so they can get
Because
kids
they-
back that much sooner.
Because that summer help, they get back
Yeah.
like 2 weeks too late. you
yeah,
know?
no, it's always, and then they always leave too early where you're
Yeah.
like, damn, we haven't gotten through the summer, and I just lost like 3 like really strong
Yeah.
working people.
Like, oh, go back to school. It's the 3rd week in August. I'm like, but Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, that's yeah.
When you left Luigi's, like, at what point do you decide, all right, I've learned everything I could possibly learn here, and it's time to pursue the next space?
Well, unfortunately, it wasn't that easy. Like, I wasn't gonna leave Luigi's. He was gonna open. I think he's on his 4th spot right now, and you know, I could have like stayed there and been like a lifer. And I know people that have been there for, 15 years. You know, that never left. But my father got sick. He was living in the Bronx. He moved back after, I guess, mid-2000s. And, yeah, I had to, like, come home. And so I moved back to New York after being out there for 9 years. And, after, like, spending a month in the hospital, kind of losing my mind every day, I was like, shit, I got to work. Like, 1, I got bills to pay. 2, he wouldn't want me just sitting here. So I, talking to like my best friend, who does our social media for La Rosa, and I was like, yo, I'm here. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but I might as well take advantage of it. What should I do? And he was like, yo, just make a list, pick, 5 spots that you really want to go at and learn from. And it was wood. Like cooking with wood. I had never done it, and made my list, went around, and I was fortunate, caught Frank at Best Pizza, who I had met maybe a year prior, was like home in town for a wedding, and it was like a spot on my radar, being this is my industry. And I went and checked it out. He was really cool, and he was like, yeah, if you ever move back to New York, stop by if you want work. And I did, and he hired me. And I'd say I was there for about a year before I was like, all right, I got to do my own thing. Like, I'm getting older. And Luigi's big thing, which is like, I'll always say super important. Luigi was like, yo, don't open your business in your 40s. Like, your body's going to change, and you're not going to be like the man you were, where you could work 70, 80 hours a week. Like, this line of work, it's not like just standing on your feet. It's constant,
Physically
like,
intense.
running up and down steps with cases of cheese, like, moving kegs around. Like, we do like grunt work.
Yeah.
And
Mentally,
everybody's like, how are you
too,
so
though.
thin? I'm like, yo, like, if you saw my day about like how much I run around, that's how I stay thin.
Yeah.
Like, it's,
And mentally too, though.
yeah.
It's like, as you mentioned, you walked in and they already had questions about POS. I walk in the store and it's everybody's decided they don't want to make decisions anymore, and it's like I can't walk past anybody without somebody shooting some option at me,
Yeah. 100%. It's,
which I'm trying to move away from. Just do it.
What was like being in San Diego for 9 years, where it's a whole different world over there, and then coming back over to here? Like, how is that? It had to be a culture shock.
It was, yeah, I mean, I came back always like once or twice a year, see family, friends, and I think working in the industry in New York, it was kind of like stepping it up, like going from the minors to the majors. And definitely I remember like one of my I think my first night at Best Pizza was like a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and the GM partner, Hugo's like one of my best buds, was like, yo, don't be offended if I kick you off the line. And I was like, oh shit. I'm like, how many pizzas are they going to have me make? And then it was just like your standard slow Tuesday. And I just like cruised through it. And he was just like, all right, like you got a gig. Like, you know. But again, it's like, it's intense. It's a different world. I mean, it was just wild too, like being in Williamsburg. Like I lived in Greenpoint for 3 years before I moved to California. And I spent a lot of time in Williamsburg, and every time I came home, that's where like I would stay. But working down there was just totally different. Just like, you know, they got a feast that goes on every year where I think like that first year they were like, oh, want to talk about culture shock? Want to talk about like not being like around Italian Americans from New York for 9 years, like that, and all of a sudden there's like thousands of guys like, hey yo, give me a slice now. Like, what the fuck's taking so long? You're like, oh man, like.
I enjoy.
If anybody talked to me like this in San Diego, it'd just be like the death stare, and it'd be like, I'm sorry, like, you know.
I enjoy this considering
Basically said I love you.
my girlfriend
Yeah.
is from San Diego.
Oh, really?
And sure enough, like coming here, she just kind of like knew nothing about Italians. Like they're just not like out there in droves like they are here.
Well, Tommy from Hoboken used to ask people like, oh, like, where are you from? What's your like nationality? And I remember like multiple people being like, I don't know. Just like they were just so white that they didn't know. Like they were like, my like great grandparents were probably like cowboys that crossed the country and like
That is such a
came out for
California
the
thing to
gold
say.
rush, and just like they didn't know. And it was just like insane. Like, or like, you know, it was like a girl with like an Italian last name where you're just, oh, you're Italian? You're like, I don't know. Like, oh, your like last name ends with an O. Like, just like weird shit like that. But same thing too. Like when I got out there, I would talk to people and they'd be like, what was your neighborhood like? So Tuckahoe, Eastchester. It's just like, you know, it's kind of like the Bensonhurst of like Westchester. It's just like all Italian people. And, you know, I was like, oh, I just kind of grew up in like this Guido neighborhood. Like everybody was like pretty chill, but you know, you like knew not to get like too crazy with anybody. And sure enough, they're like, I don't understand it. Like, and I'm like, well, out here you guys have like neighborhoods where it's strictly like Mexicans.
Yeah.
Like it's Mexican neighborhood. I'm like, figure like that. It's just, you know, your grandmother who never spoke English can go to the bank. She can go to the, you know, the salon. She can go to the supermarket and like get away with never learning English. And then like in Eastchester, like back then it was like 100%. Like I remember that from my childhood. So I'm explaining it to like these new people that I'm meeting who were actually from San Diego on the West Coast. And I'm like, Jersey Shore came out. And they were like, yo, is this what you were talking about? And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. That was Eastchester High School. Like class of 99, that was Eastchester.
I had a blowout. I'm not even Italian.
Did you?
Like, yeah. Yeah.
I was never that guy, like just personally.
Blowout with who?
No, like
I'm just kidding.
like,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Just let me explain this to you.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I was there.
The hair essentially just goes upwards and outwards, and there's like a little
explaining
fade
I
at
know.
the bottom.
I was there. I'm not
there's,
that old.
There's people listening to this in Middle America that have no
You're
idea
right.
what the hell we're talking about.
No, everybody knows Jersey Shore. They
Yeah,
blew it
Jersey
up.
Shore.
They blew it up for like Italian American culture in like the tri-state, and it was kind of like symbolized. Oh yeah, this is like a subculture. Like I grew up like into like skateboarding and punk rock and you know that thing, and that's a subculture. So it was kind of, you know, being in Eastchester. Like I was cool with everybody, but I was an outsider.
Fun fact: Paulie D still rocks that haircut.
Like my friends back home always called growing up. My friends always called me like Matty D, and it was like funny. It was so Paulie D. They're like, oh, Paulie D. Like, what? Let me guess. Like, you're Matty D, and I was like, well, actually, like, since like elementary school, kids have been calling me that.
So let's talk about this, right? You finally kind of get this plan together when you come home. Like we're sitting in this beautiful place right now. We're actually sitting outside.
Yeah.
I think everyone can hear the birds, I'm sure,
Yeah.
chirping. But like this is a very nice little outdoor area in which you could sit, eat. There's heat lamps. There's little lights strung above us. There's wood seating with high backs. But then also we've got this famous famous tablecloth on
Wood
here.
wood seat. He says
My
wood,
girlfriend hates
wood
it.
seating.
Yeah.
I
He's painting the picture.
Yeah,
I-
wood seating.
I hate this tablecloth, but it has such respect just based upon.
Why do you hate it so much?
Well, it's just like it's the
cheesy.
red and white checker panel tablecloth.
This is like
that
the
you'll
classic
see
red
always.
sauce joint.
This
This is
is
tablecloth
this
right
is
there.
your grandfather's backyard,
Right.
Yeah.
and when me and my contractor partner John DeVivo, we were just kind of like doing design work on like how it should look, and my girlfriend had all these ideas, and she kept emailing John stuff, and we kind of were like, oh, it's COVID, we don't have a ton of money, like what can we do and what can we get away with? And this is like they're like plywood tabletops that John just cut down. I'm like, fuck it, let's just cover it with tablecloth and make it look like an old man's backyard, and I'm cool with it.
It's awesome.
For now, it's fine. It's passable. It's a joke.
Honestly, I don't think it has.
we're not
to
we're not a
Doesn't.
serious restaurant. Like we're like we serve pizza. This isn't a fine dining spot, so it's kind of like part of the character. Like we're on this dead end street you talked about. It's like we're in the cut. Like what do you expect from a place in the cut?
But you say you're in the cut, but it's also like a little bit of a historical landmark for
Oh,
New Rochelle
yeah.
being in this spot. Like
It's crazy
in the
that this
cut, but
place-
people know about it.
Yeah, but it's crazy that this place sat vacant for 5 years. Everybody was. I mean, there were a lot of reasons why nobody took it over, and I didn't realize any of those till I signed a lease. So I was kind of stuck. Like, oh, this makes sense. Like, why nobody wanted this place? But yeah, it's a historic landmark. This place has been here since 1924.
Approaching the 100-year mark. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
old school.
When I walked in, honestly, this place feels fantastic. When I walked in, all of this like beautiful, like dark wood all over the place.
White tiles
the,
on the wall.
The bar is like small, but also the bar is like sit next to the guy next to you and have a conversation.
Yeah.
It's very inviting for that, I think.
Yeah.
The cappuccino maker in the front or the espresso maker, a couple bottles. I saw a beautiful bottle of Carpano Antica back there too. So like these things are telling me, hey, you can still get a cocktail and
Yeah.
it should be good.
Yeah.
Furthermore, as we continue walking in, there's like a whole
Walk
area
past
of all
that.
these records.
Well, yeah, okay.
It's like a bookshelf, like
Yeah.
almost
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this Williamsburg-ish like bookshelf.
Yeah, so we opened, we didn't have money for Sonos. Like, want to talk about, like,
Nobody ever has any money.
yeah. Like, you just blew your entire, you went over budget by so much money that you're like, how,
Wait, music?
how are we going to play music in here? And I was like, I'm just going to bring in my record player and my receiver. And yeah, for the first couple months, it was strictly like, yo, flip the record. Like, in the middle of dinner service.
Yeah,
Like,
but that
just it
adds to
goes
the
to
feel.
silence. And you're like, all right, like, I think like 3 months in, I'm like, all right, I'll take less money this week and buy a Sonos. So, yeah.
I mean, these are decisions that have to be made when you're looking at the balance sheet and trying to
Oh,
figure out
dude.
where the money gets allocated.
Even like
to.
the plates, like we didn't go with like my parents' China plates as our first plates for any other reason that we didn't have money to like go to Fish's-Eddie and
I thought
buy
you just
bistro.
really liked the aesthetic of the place.
I
like it.
loved it, but it started just strictly out of like I don't have like money to buy plates right now. Like
you don't need to
dead
change things.
serious.
Don't even tell
like
people that they work. They're
no,
perfect.
and then like we broke
We
all
didn't
my
buy
parents'
plates yet.
China, and like then I've just been thrifting it ever since. But
This is like what you've produced here is kind of the epitome of what we spoke to Christian Petroni about when he was describing, these classic home feels and being on this island, kind of just overlooking the water. And he was like just painting this picture of the fucking tablecloths
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
garlic bread and the squid, like fresh just caught. Like that's kind of what this feels like sitting here.
Because
is-
you come out here and you kind of forget that you're on this little street in the middle of New Rochelle.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a nice sanctuary, especially for me. Just like the end of the day, sometimes everybody goes home and I just sit out here.
so
Sometimes I'm still shocked that I have a restaurant where I'm like, holy fuck, how did this happen?
I mean, so this space was vacant for 5 years before you came in here, and it had to, I guess, do a lot of upkeep. Or bring it up to code, or
Yeah, so the last time Modern signed their lease here in '84, and they were here for 30 years. So figure all the code that changed in that amount of time, and then the amount of time that they weren't here. So it was like, I didn't know any of that. I'm like, oh, it's an old place. Everything's got to be grandfathered in. In New York State, when a place is closed for more than 1 year, you lose everything. You got to start fresh. So it depends on how long it's been. Thank God it was 1984 and it wasn't 1924. You know? It could have easily been that.
Yeah, you would have been running new electric.
Oh, dude, it's nightmare. We already did that. Like the electric work, the plumbing work, you know, the handicap compliance, like all the wild stuff that from general managing and just working in pizzerias and restaurants, like the stuff that you don't understand till it's like your job to do it. Like you gotta get an architect. You gotta, you know, go and get permits. You can't do any work inside till they put the sticker in the window. Just like weird shit where you're like, yo, I want to rip this whole place apart right now, but you're telling me if I do, I'm gonna get in trouble. And it's been a wild ride to like learn all that and to have made every mistake possible.
Did you actually wait though?
What's up?
Did you actually wait?
Yeah, I mean, not with a lot. Yeah, for the most part, yes. Honestly.
It's past the statute of
Yeah.
limitations.
No,
you can say.
honestly, for the most part, we did. We had we went through a bunch of contractors. It was just like a nightmare in general. And, you know, it's like the first guy is trying to rip you off. The second guy is like giving you a number that makes more sense, but he's just not showing up or like disappearing. And, yeah, so I think like the first contractor was definitely doing some work before we got the permits. And it was like, I fired him within a week anyway. So it was kind of
when we got our first spot in New Rochelle, right? It was the small spot.
My friends used to work there when it was the pizza place. When it was Blackboard.
No, that's down. That's down. That's down from us.
That
That's down
wasn't?
from us. Yeah, no.
Oh, really?
Same street, but down a little bit. No, but we got in there. It was the Crave Cave before it was us.
Then I was totally
the whole building was light blue. Everything was powder, like UNC powder blue. When I say everything, I mean literally the floor, the wall, the outside, the sign, everything was that color. And we just went in and we just started. You know, we were so fresh to the idea that we didn't even think that we had to call somebody and say we're doing whatever.
That's crazy, and you were right there on North Ave.
Right on North Avenue.
Blocks
Big glass
from those.
windows.
We went in there.
Yeah.
We bought the spray painter, like the spray gun.
Yeah.
We painted the whole place. We did whatever work inside. I mean, we didn't have to really gut anything because the whole kitchen was there.
Okay.
That was part of the appeal of the spot. That all the equipment was there and everything. But I remember we called the before you open, you have to get the COs and all that stuff, and they come in and they're like, "Oh, so what did you guys have to do?" And we're just like, "Oh no, we didn't do anything. This is it. We just painted, and that's it." And then went through it. But in hindsight, realized that we were supposed to be telling them the whole time.
Even I think with painting, they want you to file a permit, which is crazy. It's like I'm spending $2,000 on painting, and you got to give them 10%. It's like here's a check for $20 so I can paint the restaurant.
Right.
Like,
but I think
shit.
They didn't even notice what was going on until we told them. So when they did come in, we were finally tell them that it was already there, because otherwise you're gonna have to go back and like refile it. Like, yeah, this is all there. We just painted that door and that's it. Change the sign, good to go.
I wish it was that easy here. I really do, because it was a year. It was like a year plus of like just headaches and.
Oh man, well now I know, because the new spot we couldn't do that. There was obviously nothing there. So
I think too though, now everybody knows you too, where it's probably. You know, like
Smoke
in the
has
beginning when
principle
nobody
there?
knows you in New Rochelle, like nobody wants to help.
Right.
They're like, oh yeah, we'll come by, like, you know, like a framing inspection. We had to have that done before any of the other ones, and it was like, it took like 2.5 months to get a framing inspection.
Framing inspection, electrical inspection, plumbing
How?
inspection, this inspection, that
How did
inspection.
it take 2.5 months to get one inspection, and then you got to wait for all the other ones to like snowball?
The problem is though that now everybody thinks we have money.
No, well, yeah.
Once you open the door, they
You have a
see
busy
one
restaurant.
Yeah, one Friday
yeah.
night, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's got money. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, same.
What was the original budget in here? You said you went over the budget by miles.
The original budget was like 200.
Yeah.
You know what we spent to build out the first New Rochelle location?
I don't even want to know. Probably so you said you just painted and did a couple.
Yeah, I mean
of
most of the stuff was there.
50 grand.
Yeah, our entire opening cash flow was $35,000.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
for
And that was
everything.
with everything, like wood
Everything.
replaced there and glassware.
Yeah.
Nice.
We wildly underestimated what we needed to open the spot.
Yeah, but you know what?
So-
That's the best way to do it because you get like I would have loved to have just opened the doors and sold like pizza to go for like a month before we were like, all right, now you can like sit down inside. But you know, it's like
We bought the outside furniture from what's that like knockoff?
Bob's.
No, it was
No,
even worse
than
now. It was
that.
like someplace in Portchester next to the flea market.
Frank's.
And we bought. It was like the $6 resin
plastic
patio
chairs.
stuff.
Yep.
That full.
I have new chairs downstairs and I'm pulling up and it was like a fight where I was like, I don't want to spend the money. I'd rather like spend the money on this or this for the kitchen. And you know, my contractor's like, no, these chairs suck. They got to go. So
They had max weight of like 180 pounds. So,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
from that.
people are
And
flying through 'em.
we would sit there and watch people sit down and see
And
like the
they're
legs.
like,
straight.
yeah. Especially about your barbecue joint, you got like the big people coming through, like eating, you know,
She's like, oh, I hope
pounds and
that chair
pounds
doesn't
of
give
red
out.
meat.
That first year, those plastic chairs and tables were terrible.
So take us through this menu. Like, it's. I don't want to say it's basic. I feel
Oh,
like
it's
that sounds like it has negative connotation.
It's not
no,
basic.
but it's
Simple.
sexy.
It's simple.
It's tight. It's tight.
All right. So our menu too, the same thing. Like when we open. All right, we're just gonna do 4 pizzas, 2 salads, and 1 dessert, and that was it. And I still have somewhere inside a copy of it, and it was, you know, Modern had a lot of like room. They used to have the building next door to us. They had the basement that they used to be able to use, which was not grandfathered into us, so like I can't do anything downstairs. So they had this massive menu, and then people were coming in and they're like, you have 4 pizzas, 2 salads, and a dessert, and like people just walked out straight up, and I'm like, what? We called it Pizzeria La Rosa for a reason. It's a pizzeria. Just come in and get pizza, like, please. And you know, ultimately, little by little, we just kind of added to it. So I think now it's like we have 3 salads. I think it's 7 or 8 side dishes. We're up to 6 pizzas right now and a couple plates. And we do everything in house. We try to buy, you know, in our industry, we try to buy the top quality products, and we never try to cut corners, and we don't change. And you know, it was like, okay, let's just have a really simple menu that we can always keep. And I think that's the problem when like you have a massive menu. And we had this problem actually, what was it? You came in
Last Tuesday.
Yeah. I saw Noom was here. He like posted something on his story, and I was like instantly like, dude, I'm so sorry because we got our ass kicked on Mother's Day, and everything
Wait, you
was
called
coming.
them out on Instagram?
I didn't call him out. I said
No.
my salad was fucking beautiful.
Oh.
He put a picture of a salad, and I was just like,
Fucking
oh,
place doesn't
no.
have anything again.
No, it was the first time since we opened, so like almost 4 years, where the entire menu was out by Sunday night. And of course, typical shit, like, you know, restaurant stuff, like every 6 months you have to have your Ansel system checked and can't use the gas lines for, you know, the couple hours that they're in doing the work. So of course I'm like, oh yeah, that's the date they scheduled, like the day after Mother's Day, where
You have all
we
this
got
work to
killed.
do.
We have all of this work to do. Anybody who, and I was like, I almost just told him like, don't open for lunch or just sell pizza. And I was kind of like, you know what? It's Tuesday. Let's just see what happens. Of course, like
Then
noon
I walked
shows
in.
up, and I'm like, oh great, like talented chef like shows up, and I have nothing on the menu, and it's like, yeah, Pat LaFreda's not showing up. Pat LaFreda showed up that night at 9:00.
Goddamn.
Talk about like out of chicken, out of meatballs, like need the smoked bacon to make the vodka sauce. Like we were out of everything, and it was so embarrassing, and I'm sorry for that.
Luckily, I just wanted a salad and some wings.
Yeah. We didn't even have the wings. The wings we didn't
No,
even have.
I got wings. I got
Oh, you
wings.
did? Okay,
Yeah,
that truck showed up early enough. Cool.
So with the wood-fired pies, they're different. Explain it to me.
Well, we do. I mean, cooking with wood is different in the sense that there's not a control temperature to it. So
Do you have a specific choice of wood that you prefer or only use?
yeah, we use it's a mix. I've switched up the vendors a little bit. I just recently went back to everything's coming from the Poconos right now, and it's the guy that my partner Frank's been using in Brooklyn for almost 10 years.
I've seen that
And-
guy on TV.
No, that's another guy. Well, there was one guy, but
older guy?
that was on my partner's show. That was Roberta's uses.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of people in this industry. We use Frank's firewood. I like Frank a lot. Frank and Jim. They cut the trees down themselves. They split them. They kiln dry it. They deliver it. It's like one-man shop. It's not. I was using these guys out of Vermont. I was using this other company, and everybody doesn't do the work. They're waiting for the supply chain. And so when COVID kind of screwed everything up, it started to be a headache. And luckily, Frank and Jim never wanted to come here because they're like, yo, all of our accounts are in Manhattan and Brooklyn. We do not want to drive out there. So sure enough, they came out and they lost a bunch of accounts in the city, and we're like, actually, now we'll come to Westchester. So, but it's a mix. It's birch, maple, oak, cherry. It's a mix.
And all those things go into the oven.
Yeah, only wood. No gas assist. We don't use any coal. It's strictly wood. And, it's like we put... The temperature isn't as crazy. We have the big oven. It's 7.5 foot circumference in size, which is you can't buy one that big from a manufacturer. You'd have to have somebody custom build one that size. So,
and that's the oven that's been there since old modern and before modern.
Well, that oven, we did a ton of work on that. That was a coal burning oven, and then in the 80s, modern converted it to be oil fired. And the guys who owned this building had an oil company, so they were able to fill it. It's a 500-gallon tank right over there, under behind that fence, and they were filling it once a week to heat the oven. So they're spending over $1,000 a week just to put food out. Where it takes longer to cook. It's it's dirtier. In the sense of the emissions. So yeah, we're using 100% wood. I think we get a great product out of it. I love cooking with wood. It's just, it's a daily challenge and it's a ritual. It's, getting that oven to the right temperature, controlling it on a Friday night where you're 100 pies behind on the board and trying to how do I keep this thing cranking, the tops and the bottoms to look perfect. And it's just, you're never going to have the same pizza. And I think, what's his name? Anthony Mangieri. It's the godfather kind of wood-fired pizza in America. And he'd always talked about out of 100 pies I make in a night, he's it's probably 5 of them that I like. And it's it's wild when you cook with wood because now I know that. I didn't really understand it till...
So over the course of a day, how much wood do you think you have to put in that oven to maintain?
What I was just thinking. How much
a
wood
lot.
do you go through?
So we go through a quart a week. So it's a lot. So if you get a bunch at, you go to the gas station and buy a bunch of wood, it's probably 4 or 5 of those a day.
That's an intense
But
amount
it's
of
better
wood.
than I thought, though. I thought there almost would have been a lot more wood being burnt throughout the course of a day.
That's
It
a lot of
depends.
wood.
5 bunches of wood.
That's a lot of wood, dude.
That's a lot.
Four
It's
or
a lot.
5 bunches we could stack up on this
Yeah,
table
but so
right
then
now.
you're also
yeah.
only putting
Yeah.
in maybe 2 or 3 sticks at a time to maintain temperature, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The most is in the morning getting it started. So right now Claudia's inside and she's been here since 9. And
So
it's
how do you initially fire it up for the first time?
I was
in the
just gonna
morning?
ask,
It's
is
a
this
blowtorch or-
stack? Is
no,
there?
no. So it's the stack, kind of
Yeah.
you would build a fire, campground fire.
Boy Scouts.
Yeah, 100%. But we're lucky, so we'll put the wood in the morning, and then from the heat from the night before, we'll put the wood in, close the oven again, and then after about a half hour, that wood starts to
Starts to smolder.
smoke up, and then you just literally light a paper towel, throw it in, and it ignites, and then it's a long process. It's a 2-hour process every day for us to get that up to temperature.
God damn.
So you can get it. You can get the wood to ignite just from the heat from the night before.
Yeah.
And so you're
If
not
we
putting
were
it out
open
the
7
night before,
days-
right? You're
what's
just.
up?
I said so you're not really putting it out. You're just closing the oven at the end of the
Close
night.
we spread the embers at the end of the night, and then it just chills out, for the 10 hours that we're not here. And then in that morning, it's still hot. You open that oven and slide the wood in, get it going.
So you never actually put it out.
The fire?
Yeah.
Yeah, you put it out every night, but
Maintains temperature.
it's once you close the oven door, it's the embers will slowly burn off, but
Right.
within an hour still, you can open up that oven and they'll you'll see those, like, they'll light up like Christmas lights. Like, it's wild.
That's so cool.
What's the deal with the sesame seeds on the crust?
Sesame seeds so that's Frank, my partner, came up with the white pie in Brooklyn. He opened Best Pizza with the guys from Roberta's, which, you know, he was working with for some time before that. And, yeah, he came up with that pie. Frank's just, you know, dude who went to CIA, is super talented, creative. And Frank put out that pie that kind of just got symbolized as, like, the Frank Pinello pie. And I remember we were hanging out one day and, like, Matty Matson calls him, like, hey, I want to put this, like, your pizza on my menu in Canada. And he's like, cool, just, like, shout me out in it. So, like, go to Canada and have that sesame seed, caramelized onion, white pizza at Matty Matson's place that's, you know, called Frank's Best, you know? And it's an interesting pie. I've seen it at a couple other spots, like, so the idea of sesame seed crust isn't, like, something that he just thought up overnight, but it's not a lot of places do it. It gives
I thought that was
nice
a Rosa thing. I thought that was like a special touch that you guys
yeah. I mean, it's a special touch that Frank did. That Frank really, I'm pretty sure Frank was the one that made it popular. And then, you know, you started seeing like the everything bagel crust, and it's cool. It's a cool concept. Like, people that like crust love it. It's like a breadstick at the end of your slice. You know, but there's also like kids that you look over at their, you know, empty plate and you're like, oh shoot, they did not mess with it at all.
Yeah, also, like, I'm not a crust guy. I would
so
kind
you
of leave
go.
it there unless I was really hungry and I needed the calories in there. You
My
know,
son Deacon would not eat it. He's the pickiest eater ever.
it's like you're cutting off the sides of a sandwich.
Dude,
like
he points.
PB&J, no sides.
This is how picky he is when I cook dinner. You know, if I'm making a burger or whatever. He looks at his cheeseburger, and if there's like a mark on his cheese, he won't touch it. He's like, yeah, like if
cheese has
there's,
to be like pristine and clean.
you know how on the flat top,
yeah,
you know, the
it'll
oil
splatter.
will splatter up on the cheese.
Yeah.
If I do that and oil splatters up on the cheese like that, I'm not gonna eat that.
Do you
I don't
have
want
to count French fries for the kids? Is
No,
like
no,
your one
that's
son
not-
like, oh, you got two more.
No, that they don't. That they don't do.
I've heard
But
about
if there's a burn on it, they won't eat. They won't.
Okay.
Like if
well,
if
then, yeah, that's
yeah.
that's
they're just
always the problem here, and that's always the problem too. With like, we put basil, and we make our cheese every day in house. Like, we used to cut it by hand. Now I have like a little slicer that we got off Webstaurant that saves us time. But yeah, kids are like freaked out by it. They're like, "Mommy, this isn't like pizza." And then there's some kids that are like, "Oh, this is great." But yes, there's finicky eaters where I'm sure if your kid came in and saw like basil, like, Dad, I don't want
yeah.
that.
I don't know what is that.
Yeah. Or like there's like char on the crust. Like, I don't want that.
I don't
It's
want
burned.
Yeah.
You know?
One bite, everyone knows.
Cool guy.
How'd this happen, and what did it do for the
I
business
see what you did there.
thereafter?
Have no well, it happened. He told me he was cool. So he came in, fake name, was standing waiting for his pizza. The
He said fake name.
fake name,
Yeah,
he said
fake name.
Steve. I like pick up for Steve, you know. We were like slow. It was like, you know, a Tuesday, Wednesday during the daytime. And maybe even a Thursday, I forget. But we were mellow. So
Tell me Dave walks in, though, and you realize it's Dave.
he walks in and he's standing waiting for the pie, and I recognize him. I'm like in the middle of making other pizzas, but like no, his is in the oven. And he's standing there, and before anything, my waitress was like, Matt, there's a guy with a camera out front. Is something going on? And I was like, yeah, this guy right here is going to review the pizza, going to eat the pizza and review it. She has no idea who she is. She's like, oh, I think I heard about you. You're the guy that does it, right? And he's like, yes, that's me. It was like very like funny. And yeah, sure enough, we were just bullshitting a little bit, you know, while his pizza was coming out. And it's funny because Julio's the only other person. Julio's been with me since day one. And Julio's like the oven master, and he was about to pull the pie out. And I was like, Julio, give it another like 10, 15 seconds. 'Cause I know he likes it crispy. And then I've like replayed that moment so many times where I'm like, Julio knows the fucking oven. I should have just taken the pie out. Like, he cooks every pie in that oven. Like, I'll make it, put it in, and then he's the one cooking it. Like, I should have just taken it out. Maybe we would have got a higher score. Maybe we wouldn't have. I don't know. But anyway, Dave like eats the pizza outside. I'm like, I'm not going to be in front. I'm not going to be that guy hovering over him. So I wait till he's done, and all of a sudden he's gone. I'm like, yo, where did he go? I went outside looking around. His SUV was flying by, and he was like, pops out. And I was like, yo, you don't like come inside and give me a score? He's like, no, you got to watch the review. And I was like, oh, well, just tell me what the fuck I got. He's like 7.9. And I was like, ah. Which I was like, cool, but also like you gave my partner a 9.1 in Brooklyn. So I was kind of like, oh, all right. And he's like, let me tell you something. And he hopped out of the SUV and we like got face to face. And he was like, I don't like wood-fired pizza. He's like, I just don't. I think it's like too fancy for me. It's not my thing. You don't really make wood-fired pizza though. It's like it's in a wood-fired oven, but it's not that style. And I was like, no, it's like a crust. It's like we try to get a New York crust. And he was like, it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. And he's like, that's all I could tell you. Like, I really liked it. And he's like, it was like borderline like 8. He was like, it's like 7.981. Like, it's borderline that. And I was like, thank you. I appreciate that. So he goes, I'm going right now to Sal's Mamaroneck. What do you know about it? I was like, everything. I've been going to Sal since I was a little kid. Like, you know, you're going to like it.
That's right. It was the same day. I remember because I saw him in front of Sal's. He was wearing a suit.
Yeah. So he was like, what do you think about it? You're a pizza guy. And I was like, I think you're really going to enjoy it. It's like, it's pure New York gas oven pizza. It's great. And he went, and that review came out the next day, and I had to wait. And that review came out, and he gave us a higher score. So I was like, oh, shit. Like,
well, you also didn't get the Sicilian.
Yeah.
Which
he doesn't get the Sicilian anywhere.
I know, but Sal's at the spot where you go for the
I know.
Sicilian.
He wouldn't have liked
it's
the
Sicilian, the salad slice. Like,
but
I would get a Sicilian. My mother always got the salad slice there, and it was like two like classic Westchester slices that nobody else has duplicated.
He would have rated the Sicilian lower though, because he doesn't like.
He doesn't like it,
yeah.
and that's his thing.
Yeah.
Like he just does it.
You know what's funny about that day? I was there all day that day,
when he came.
open to close, right? And I remember the day vividly because that happened. Open to close, I'm there. We realized, I forget what it was, we ran out. I had to run to Restaurant Depot for like 30 minutes to go pick something up. The 30 minutes that I was gone, that's when he came
was there.
And my AJ caught him outside. So he was actually in that clip when he's out there reviewing the Sal's Pizza. And AJ's like, oh, you should come in here. And he's like, is it a pizzeria? And he's like, no, it's delicious though. And he's like, all right. But so we got a little glimpse in the video, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
So what's that do for business though after the video comes out in the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks even?
Okay, so the wildest thing was like I didn't know it was gonna come out that day. Literally went up online, who texted me? Booze and Burgers, George Tappy texted me, and he was like, yo, your review just came out online. I was just like, what? Like, he was the first person to text me when it happened. I was just like, fuck. I, like, instantly went on YouTube, watched it, and I was like, okay. Like that, phone's ringing. And I'd say, because I remember Frank said in Brooklyn after he got a 9.1 that he had his best day ever the next day. He was like, dude, it's like, and they're always a busy spot. They're in the middle of Williamsburg. They've been there 10 years. It's like, man, he's like, yo, it took off. And yeah, we had like a really, really, really solid month. And I think like anything happened publicity wise with this restaurant, whether it was Rob Patron with Restaurant Hunter, my partner, we were like featured on his television show. So it was like every little thing was like a boost, but that was like the last big one. That was like, oh shoot. Okay. Like we're doing all right. Like,
did you have enough stuff?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
Right.
Well, yeah, we're always ready to go. It's honestly, yeah, it didn't get. We've like put up better numbers since then, but that was definitely like, okay, we could do this much volume for sure. So like, it was pretty instant. So that month, I think it was 2 years ago actually. It was 2 years ago, and
it was May 2019.
Yeah. May 2019.
I'm not Rain Man. I was watching it this morning.
You were watching it this morning. Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah, so yeah, we're on track right now to have the best month we've ever had, which is like insane to think, because as Justin knows, like COVID ruined New Rochelle. Like we had like some really bad luck. Like COVID hit here and hit here first.
Here
and,
first,
like,
yeah.
as soon as it hit, it was kind of like that 50% nosedive in sales, and it was really scary. And we've been like slowly each week building it back up. And 2 weeks ago, we had the best week we ever had, and it was like, holy cow! Like the best week we had previous was the week before COVID hit. So it's kind of like we're going on this upwards projection and then nosedive. So it's been like the steady crawl back.
That's funny. 2 weeks ago was our best week. Also.
Yeah, people are coming out.
Yeah.
People, we were just talking before you got here. Like, we're all vaccinated. Like, we're kind of comfortable going places. We want to be outside. You were gonna work in the summer outside in the bar. Like, we built this outdoor patio to try to convince people to like, still be very cautious about what's going on. But here's an outdoor space. Like, enjoy the weather.
To be outside again.
It's
and
funny.
now the mandates are lifted as of today.
As of today, yeah.
It's funny as you forget that like New Rochelle is the epicenter of the coronavirus, pretty much as far as what it was known to be or originate from, really. So as I was picking my girlfriend's mother up from JFK from San Diego, as we're cruising up 95, I totally forgot, and she's like, "Hey, Mom. Let's see this town over here? That's where it all started, right here. Right here. You like that?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
it was funny because friends from the West Coast, like people who had no idea what this city is, were hitting me up like, "You okay?" And I'm like,
Yeah, I'm fine.
"I'm fine." Like, business isn't really fine, but it's a whole other story. Like, but it was wild. Like, definitely scary those first couple months, like, because everybody's lives stopped and we all kept going.
Yep.
Like, you didn't close, right? No. Like,
Can't.
you kept going, I kept going. Like, we're just gonna like try our best and keep everybody safe. But it was scary. Like, driving back, I was living down the road in the Bronx, and it was like every night at midnight, I'm driving home. I'm like the only car on the road, and it's all ambulances, and it was like very, very surreal. Scary to like look back and think about it. Be like it's the end of the world. Like, I'm driving home and there's just ambulances on the road flying by me. It's wild.
I made a post maybe a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month ago, and as everybody started to come back out this time, because there's a good amount of people that were coming out since we reopened last summer, right?
Yeah.
Like, with all the capacity stuff, but now this spring, a lot of people are coming out that have been in their homes for like a year and haven't done anything. You see them; they have long hair, and like. They're kind of flexing the fact they're like, "I've been in my house for a year, I haven't cut my hair," whatever. And it's weird because they're pretending, well, they're not pretending, they're reacting as they are because they've been inside for a year. And they'll run into me and they'll be like, "Nice to finally get out, huh?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been out here, dude. Like, where are you getting out? Like, we're out here hustling for the past year. It's like that cold,
We were
like
feeding people,
Yeah.
like, and that's another hard thing. Like, we talk about like just people in general and having respect for what we've done, and it's sometimes I snap, and like I had somebody the other day that like complained. They complained that their pizza was, they said it was burned, it was charred. Whatever, like it's a debate.
Was it my son?
It's up, yeah, right. That's something that's subjective in terms of like there's people I know who are like, if it's not charred, it's not ready. So whatever. It was like, it wasn't burned. I wouldn't have ever sent out a burnt pizza, but it was just the fact that this gentleman said that I come from a 5-star restaurant experience and this is unacceptable to serve. And I didn't say it to his face, and I just kind of was like, okay, we'll agree to disagree, which we did. But I'm like, yo, I just spent the last year, like, you were in this industry, and you had like something like, you want to send some food back, fine, but to like say
agreed,
what you
100%.
said was kind of like, who the fuck are you?
Yep.
Like, where were you for the last year? Were you working in this 5-star restaurant in the city? And like,
Probably not.
Probably not. And you wouldn't, like, I've been in this industry a long time, and like, how many times I've gone out where like my order got fucked up or like something happened, and like, I don't say shit.
Exactly.
I just eat it. Like, it's cool. It's like,
Shit
maybe
happens.
I won't go back, like, right away. Maybe I'll wait a little bit of time. I mean, I don't go out, anywhere really anyway, but it's just that fact of, like, if you're in this industry, it's you really have to have some set of balls to, like, complain somewhere and send something back, but, like, be rude about it.
Yeah,
And it's like, that's
agreed.
why Justin posted something where he was just like, yo, be nice. Like,
Don't-
you're
oh,
coming
so you
out
saw
to the
the post,
restaurant.
yeah, don't be a
nice.
dick, yeah.
Yeah, like, don't be a dick. Like, we've been working while you guys have been sitting home. Like, just treat us with some respect for what we've done. And I, like, right away was like, thank you, Justin. Seriously.
I'm glad that we were able to facilitate you getting that off your chest, first off.
Yeah.
And secondly, I think that most people that say that they're in this business aren't really in this business.
I was just gonna say, I have
never say that.
never,
Never.
I have never dropped the like I'm in the industry line. I've never said that to somebody.
Never.
You either know or you don't, and it's really not relevant to
that
my
comes
opinion,
up in
you know? It's like-
conversation, and that's like, I was telling you about the place I like in Sleepy Hollows,
Yeah,
place
yeah.
Beekman Ale House, like dive bar with like bar pies. I think the place is cool. I just moved to Westchester. I'm like, I like it up here, and like talking to those guys like who work their ass off, like they do a really good job of like, hey, you live in the neighborhood,
Right.
like why are you here on like a Monday night at 8:00? Like, what do you do for a living? And it's like those then it comes up, and
right.
then it's like
natural.
That's how it's
Cool.
relevant to say it. Yeah.
Yeah,
You get
I'm not
guys-
like
yeah, you get
walking
guys-
in here like, hey, look at my shirt. Like, you know what I do?
Yeah.
I get guys all the time. They're like, they'll say something just like that, maybe not as aggressive or rude, but they'll make a comment or an opinion of like, oh, you should, do something with the tables or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And they're like, I'm in the industry, so I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Immediately, as soon as you say I'm in the industry, to me,
know
I
you
stop
don't
listening
matter.
to you.
Red flag.
Yeah. It's actually a really valid point, Justin.
So let me ask you, with the fact that we're seeing awesome numbers right now, and like places are kind of seeing growth in a lot of different ways. Like you guys just both said that you've had your best numbers recently. Like, where's the next Pizza La Rosa open up at?
I don't know. Well, I'm not one for doing the same concept twice. I don't know if I'd want to open another La Rosa. This is a one-of-a-kind. I have nearly 100-year-old oven, which we did a ton of work on, and I'm not I want to do something else. I've looked at other spaces. There are people that come in here that like and trust me and are like, I'd love to do some project with you, which I'd like to do down the line, but I don't know if it would be another La Rosa per se. There's a number of concepts you can do. This place is special.
You have a stockpile of concepts in your back pocket.
I do. I have.
We do
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, 100%. You have.
You
to.
have ideas
We
all
always
the
have
time.
We always have like a rotating 7 or 8 different concepts.
Yeah.
So we're like, this would work here, or this would work there.
Yeah, but it's also like you guys were smart. You built a really good brand in New Rochelle, and then you were able to branch out to Mamaroneck. And I don't know how that affected you guys with like, cannibalizing sales, but it's, it's like very. If you have something that works and you have like your profits down, where you're like, all right, like, look, Luigi did it in California. Like, he's up to his 4th location for a reason. Like, he was very smart about, this is where I'm gonna go. This is what makes the most sense, and it works for him. This place is just one of a kind. So like, I don't think I could do it. Like, how could I put a fake oven in and be like, all right, it's La Rosa? Like,
There's not a lot of 100-year-old ovens lying around.
no, it's the only. And I didn't like decide New Rochelle. I didn't decide the dead end street. I literally was looking for an oven, found this place on Craigslist, and that was it. Like, oh, they have a 100-year-old oven. Cool. That's gonna be the restaurant.
I followed up the week after to grab a white and meatball pie, and must say, the little char marks were perfect. Check out Pizza La Rosa on social media, located in New Rochelle, New York. Enjoy the episode? We release these every Thursday with great stories from great businesses. This has been On the Record with Pizza La Rosa's Matt Gesu.